Lads, you are very, very welcome to the next episode of Soulchats. I am absolutely chuffed to have my pal, and I'm delighted to be able to call him my pal, Casey Mcquillan.
Right.
And Casey is clearly an army man in his uniform.
You can't tell, can you?
There you go. There you go. I had the privilege of working with Casey a couple of years ago, so I'm gonna read what he sent me as his introduction. Right. It was a very organised introduction. He broke it down into sections. I've never had that before. Right, so let's go. Life. Separated with one adult son. Made mistakes, but learning from them. Brilliant. Work. Defence Forces. Progressed to Battalion Quartermaster Sgt. Highest ranking non-commissioned logistics officer. That's a mouthful. Served overseas in Lebanon twice, travelled extensively in Europe, Africa and Middle East. Sport. Success as a footballer and manager, but most enjoyable time was coaching women underage and senior. Many who now play for professional teams, experienced many highs in public and lows in private across all spheres, and now manage me before managing anything else. Now, I have to tell you, I loved that introduction, Casey. What does it feel like when I say that back to you?
You're talking about somebody else there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've imposter syndrome.
Yeah, definitely
Right.
suffer with that. But I'm getting better at it.
Okay.
And writing the likes of that helps sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And breaking it down into simple, easy to understand format as if I'm outside the box.
Yeah.
And then reading it back.
Yeah.
You know,
Do you write much?
no, not in a story type way.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I actually
But
shy
your
away
own
from
thoughts, like, do you write your thoughts down?
No.
You don't?
And I steer away from it.
Right.
Even though all the advice I get, all the good advice I get is different. I
Yeah.
steer away from it because my mind is a little hard to handle at times.
Okay. That's interesting. I can help you with that.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you some soul works to do after this, I think. I didn't know that about you. I thought you did write. Okay. So, can you explain to the people how I had the privilege to meet you in the first instance?
Through the football. We had a young group of girls, underage footballers, a very talented group.
Yeah. Great young.
Really, really great. And we were trying to keep balance between them of, not every girl with potential will reach the potential in sport, as we know.
Yeah.
So we've got to give them more than that as coaches, I believe. And at Shelbourne, we were trying to balance it between get the best in, but also create good humans.
Yes.
So that when they left football, they take away the advantages that we give them, the team building, working with others, all this, building your resilience and all that. And that's how you came into the picture, was to give these girls a bit more confidence in themselves, give them tools to help them deal with things that come up, because I love sport. I love sport and developing young people, because it's sport, and a competitive sport is where you find out things about yourself that you won't find out, because the world can be a little bit nice if we shelter them too much.
Absolutely.
But in a competitive game, you're not going to get what you shout loudest for. You're going to have to work hard for it.
Yes.
And that's what you're trying to do. But then with that comes when you're at the working hard and you don't get what you want.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Bounce back.
That can be hard for a kid, you know what I mean? If they haven't been experiencing it, and if parents are being sheltering them, which is 100% the right thing to do, but we've also got to balance to a point,
in my opinion.
Yeah, and so that's what we were trying to do with yourself, is bring you in to give them tools to help them build the resilience to setbacks, and that they would be able to come back quicker, and that would help them both in sport but also in life when they get on at a later stage. So you came in, you gave them a talk and bowled them all over, and a lot of them players are now playing up at a level now,
I know, I see them, I watch them.
Yeah, young Abby Larkin is now over in Crystal Palace and she's playing for Ireland, You've a couple of others, I can't think of their names offhand who were at that one, but I'd find them out for you, Izzy Atkinson was there as well, she's also at Crystal Palace.
Yeah. When I see them, Casey, my heart just explodes with pride watching them,
But it should, because, between yourself, myself and all the other coaches and Shelbourne as a club, and also people at MGL and Ireland levels, we've given them tools, and they're the ones that have made it in the sport. But there's also a lot of them have made it in other spheres in life,
Yes.
They're quite successful in whatever path they've chosen,
And isn't it great to know that the tools that people learn with regard to personal development are not just for one genre of their life. It spreads over every element of your life when you're doing personal development.
100% agree with it. That's why I love coaching in football or in any sport. Even we coach within work ourselves. It's the tools you use are the same, whether they're in sport, whether they're in work, or whether they're at home. And I know you kind of say I broke it into sections there, but every section overlaps with each other.
Yeah, they're all interconnected.
And the reason that I made the comment at the end of it, where it is, I've celebrated in public and I've worked in private, is because it doesn't matter what one of them is. The tools I use to help me with all them were the same throughout all three of them.
Yes.
So everything is relatable from one sphere to another sphere.
Yeah, absolutely. So it says here as well that you played sport at a very high level.
I actually forgot the word moderate before that. Even when you read it out, I said moderate success.
Tell us about that, Casey.
Yeah. No, I would have played listen, there's 100 million lads could have went over to England and played football. I'm one of them lads that could have went over and played football.
Okay.
But what I did do was I played for a club where I felt wanted. You know what I mean? And that was a big thing for me, and I never wanted to move. So the offers I had to go League of Ireland or over the thing, I never took them up. Okay. And whether I would have been successful
or
not.
Where are you playing for?
Up with Ballymun United.
Oh, yeah. Great club.
Great club. Really great club, and salt of the earth people, and what a community up there. And I felt at home, and that's why I wanted to stay there.
My whole stomach is just after doing a big flip for you, because I can feel the sense of belonging, validation, community.
Everything a family should give you, or a group should give you. It's
and none of the other dazzly things distracted you from that. That just felt like it was too important to you.
No, and sometimes I was actually told in later life, sometimes some people didn't even bother asking me anything because they knew my connection.
Yeah, he's not budging.
Yeah, there's no point in even asking him. He won't leave there. Yeah. So and we did quite well with that team. We won in All Ireland. We won our leagues and our cups, and we done well. And I'd say in the small bubble we're in, we were at the top of our game. Yeah. But in the bigger scheme of things, no, we're nowhere near, Premiership level. But we were, we lived the life, and we thought we were Premiership footballers at the time.
Absolutely.
And the longer story of that is I went on to manage Ballymun at a later stage then. Right. And they took a little bit of a step back, and we went again, and then we won All Ireland again as a manager.
That's fantastic.
So that was, and you feel like you're giving back then as well, because it's your club.
Very important to be giving back. Did you ever play against Edenmore?
Yes.
We were a great club, Casey.
Did we ever beat Edenmore? Is that what you said?
Well, you tell me. I don't know. You see, I never played soccer.
Edenmore won an intermediate league, which was the only club to do that at the time.
Yeah.
But we played them. Yeah, we had some really good battles on the hill up there against Edenmore.
Yeah.
And they had, people don't remember back in that day. You had really top footballers playing local football.
Listen, up at the snooker hall in Edenmore, right, where it all happened.
Yeah.
That was their community centre. I was afraid of all of that buzz and that vibe up there. But I knew all the lads, and my God, you wouldn't see the level of football that was played outside that snooker hall on an international stadium today. These lads were outstanding.
Naturally gifted lads. Who loved their community. It was a different time. People used to drink.
It was all they had.
Footballers used to drink. They used to get excited and do things they shouldn't be doing. But but it was so competitive, and I always feel it doesn't matter what level of sport you play. If you can get two teams with the same level of ambition or the same level of desire out on the pitch, well, that's compelling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do you know what? What I wouldn't give Casey right now to just rewind time for a minute and go back and watch you guys playing against each other. Yeah.
I'd love to rewind that and play.
Yeah. But that's one of the bad things about, listen, I'm glad that my life wasn't recorded when I was growing up. I'm sure you're glad your life wasn't recorded. But it's technology for stuff like that I wish we had. I wish we would have footage of those kinds of games that we could look back on.
Yeah, we've lost that.
And show the kids.
We've lost the community thing that was in football then. Right. Or in sports, they still have it outside of Dublin or outside the big cities. You will get it in villages, and, that community spirit, whereas we used to have hundreds watching us up in Ballymun. Yeah. And now you'll get 30 or 40 people come out, and they're usually directly related to a player.
If somebody belonged to them on the pitch.
The community feel has gone in Dublin, and some of that is good, that our communities have diversified and they've grown, but some of it is, we're losing the baby with the bathwater as well at times, I think, and we got to work to keep that, That's what I miss about it. As I say, I fought for my team. Yeah. And people that played for Edenmore, Kevin's, all these teams, Portmarnock, they fought for their area as well, what I mean? And this was us. We were being sent out into battle on behalf of Ballymun on a football pitch.
That was it. That was the World Cup every Sunday.
If you were playing Edenmore at home and Edenmore were on their home pitch, they were defending their their community, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it's, you know, it was great. And, you know, what happened on the pitch stayed on the pitch. It's, you know, we'd kill each other and we'd play great football and it'd be fast and furious. But at the end, lo and behold, God forbid, top class footballers went into the pub and had a pint straight after it and slapped each other on the back, you know.
And got on with it.
Yeah, and got on with it. Went back to work the next day.
That's it. So we've worked with each other a couple of times with the underage teams. And from the minute I met you, Casey, I said, me and him are going to click now. He has the same kind of vibe as I do, coming from the same perspective and all about the kids, just developing the kids and bringing the kids along. And I enjoyed every time that I worked with your teams. But was it last summer that we were at the gig in
Fairview? Wasn't it? In Fairview, yeah.
I was at a gig in Fairview with my husband and my pals.
Summer before, actually, I think it was.
Was it 2 summers ago? You see, me timelines are a little bit all over the shop at the minute. But we were at this gig in Fairview and I happened to bump into you. Mm-hmm. And I was leapt up. I was like, that's Casey, brilliant. I was just so pleased to be able to introduce you to Neil and my pals. And I was telling them all about you. And you went about your business. And then an hour or so later, I went to use the bathroom and the place was thronged with people. Mm-hmm. And I got really disorientated on the way out and I got lost. But I found you and you were able to...
It makes it sound like I was stalking you, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't.
Where's Nicola?
No, it doesn't. So I bumped into you and I was like, Casey, I'm after losing me people. And you were like, I'll get you back to your people. You knew exactly where I had come from. So anyway, you walked me back and that was great. But it was on my mind, the conversation of being lost and people finding you and asking for help and asking for support is very important to me. It's a big part of the work that I do. So I decided to take that story and bring it to social media. And I told the story live on camera one day. And little did I know that you were actually watching it.
Yeah.
And then you come on and then you gave your version of events. Do you want to just give us a short synopsis of what your version of events was?
Yeah, it mightn't be exactly as I remembered it now, but I've a terrible memory. But this actually does stick in my head because it was one of them times that, you know, we're all on journeys, but I was at a particular stage in my journey at that time and I was pushing myself outside my limits and outside my comfort zone. Okay. And I was at the concert on my own, unbeknownst to you.
I didn't know you were on your own. Yeah. I was raging. I found out that after.
So I'm trying to get myself outside my comfort zone. And it's similar to your story in a way that, you know, I'm a little bit lost, but I got to try and find myself, you know, and I got to go on it. And it's not wishy-washy. It's the hard steps, but you got to take them. So I'm there and I'm listening to you telling this story and I'm saying, well, actually, it's me that was lost, you know what I mean? And when I seen you and your people there that day, it kind of made it worth me while going to the concert because in before that I'm fidgeting, you know, and I'm standing with a point and I'm saying, why is everybody looking at me? Nobody's looking at me.
Yeah.
But this is the feeling I'm getting.
The thoughts took over.
Yeah, and I'm saying, you know, oh, you're a weirdo, you know, why you don't go to a concert on your own? And it's the build up to the concert is the worst time when you're at it, you know. So I'm just trying to convey how I felt that day, you know. It's and what set me at ease, you know, because I walked out of another concert, I didn't tell you that before, when I went to it before as well, because I just felt so uneasy, you know what I mean? And that's grand, that's part of the journey. So
your negative self-talk was very loud at the time?
Yeah. Right. You got to push yourself, you know, I'm going to say you got to push yourself, but it's not always easy to, you know, so it's a fear, you know, it's the way we're brought up, you don't do things on your own. Yeah. You know, it's not... It's frowned upon, you know what I mean? It's even I'm just repeating what I've heard to myself. You know? Who's that weirdo over there?
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
the judgment that you were putting out, you were actually reflecting it back onto yourself on that day.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's what I do feel when I'm, you know. Yeah. I say, and I know nobody's looking at me. You know, the person that thinks properly knows nobody is looking at you. They're all out there having a great time.
They're minding their own business. Yeah. They're thinking about themselves.
That's it. Yeah. They're waiting for their concert to come on. They're not paying their money to enjoy their night. They're not looking at Casey Mcquillan stand there. Yeah. You know what I mean? Unless you're doing something untoward, you know what I mean? Yeah. They won't remember you in the morning. They won't remember you in 2 minutes, you know. So, absolutely. But that's not the person I was at that moment. And what helped me then was I met Niall and I met the other two people there. And they were so welcoming, you know what I mean? And I'm sort of saying, I think I knew these people all my life, you know, and it gave me a buzz then going away. And then I met you later on, and of course then, you know, you're a little bit lost and it's just disorientating and it's grand, just bring it back over because being a military person,
Yeah,
you always
if anybody's going to find.
But I get lost myself all the time in a real sense, you know, and I'll always use, where's the sound stand, you know what I mean? And are we to the left of that, are we to the right of that? Because it's very easy to get disorientated. So you'll pick points and use them. So I was able to bring it back. But again, that gave me another purpose for being there that day in a weird type of way.
Yeah.
You know, and that helped me stay. And then it was the Coronas who were playing, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it was the Coronas.
And
great
once they started, then the rest of the world was forgot to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you has helped me get to that stage of that. Once I started, then I was able to blend in the crowd and the music.
But also, it's very important, Casey, is that there was a gap between where you were and the concert starting, and what filled the gap for you was helping another person.
Yeah.
That filled the gap. I did this exercise with somebody the other day. I said, if you go and help 2 people, I promise you'll help yourself. The third, you'll be the third that you help. And I gave them a timeline, and they went off, and they came back and they said, Nick, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But then that you helping me fill the gap. But then when the concert happened, you were in the moment then.
Yeah.
You weren't thinking about the past. You weren't thinking about the future. You weren't thinking about other people thinking about you. You were just in the moment with the music and enjoying it. So it's the reason why I'm honing in on that, that's very important for the listeners to know the importance of living in the moment.
Yeah. It's hard. It is hard. But there's going to be little bridges you have to cross to get to that moment, you know, and the word moment is even probably wrong because we don't want it to be a moment.
Yeah.
We want it to be hours, you know what I mean? We want it to be days.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's the moments that we're actually living for that if we get to that moment, we're in a great place. Like I can't tell you how good that concert was.
Yeah.
You know, when the lads came on.
It was deadly.
You know, it was class, you know, and the whole focus up towards stage, but it was hard to get to that moment.
Yes.
But that moment makes it worth it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think people forget that sometimes, you know. And we do want it to last days.
Yeah.
But it doesn't last days.
Yeah.
So value the moment.
Absolutely.
You know, but also value the journey to get there. There is little things along the way that will help you get to it that are not as big, but they're big moments in themselves, you know. And there's 2 moments with yourself.
Yeah.
And your people.
Yeah.
That helped me get to that moment, you know, to the ultimate moment of that particular day.
Yeah. I'm always saying to my clients, do you want to feel better or do you want to be better? Mm-hmm. Feeling better is short term and it just gets you to the next moment.
Yeah.
Whereas being better is you refining your character, doing a lot of self-reflection, looking inward. But when you're being better, the feeling comes organically. And you never have to chase the feeling again.
Is that not people wanting to chase the path of least resistance?
When they're looking for the feeling.
When they're looking for the feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's to me, the hard work comes with being better.
Absolutely.
You know, it's definitely not easy for the first part, you know, but it's easier, you know, and I think sometimes we chatted off air a little bit about it. Sometimes we get to stages where that's okay, you know what I mean? I know, sure, I've done it all. I feel great now today. But what about tomorrow? What about the day after? Or what about next week? Or what about something comes out of the blue? You know, I've got my routine right and I'm getting up in the morning and getting up early and I'm attacking the day with vigour and I'm going about it, and then something out of the blue hits me from the side. How am I going to deal with that? Yeah. Well, you deal with that not in the moment. You deal with that days and weeks beforehand by building up resilience.
It's the prep, yes.
You know,
it's refining you daily. And as I say, always pouring into the cup because you never know when you're going to have to take from your own cup for a minute.
I like that one, yeah.
So we have to, what I say to my clients is, are you operating from the cup or are you operating from the saucer? You have to fill the cup up so much that it overflows. What's in the cup is for you, but what's on the saucer is for everybody else.
Yeah.
Putting in the work.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, putting in the work for you is very, very important. What I'll do is that I'll make sure when this podcast is released that I put the links in to that live stream that I did about you.
Yeah.
Because it was very powerful. And I bawled on it.
Yeah.
It was very emotional for me. I want to speak to you about your personal life. You said that you're separated with one adult son, made mistakes, but learning from them. And I get the impression, Casey, that, and I know you a good few years now, but I'm getting the impression that you have absolutely no issue with vulnerability.
You'll have to explain that to me a little bit more.
So it would be very rare now for somebody to say to me in writing, knowing that I'm going to be speaking about this on camera, that I'm separated with one adult son, I've made mistakes, but I'm learning from them. That's a rarity.
I do have vulnerability.
Yeah.
But again, like going to the concerts, I'm trying to take myself outside my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I think the force on my journey, I think the way I operate is I have to admit I was wrong in the first place.
Yes.
You know, so therefore, and
did you ever struggle with that? Did you ever struggle with admitting that you were wrong?
I struggle every day with admitting I'm wrong. I'm always right. You know what I mean? My initial reaction to everything is I'm right. Sure.
Defense.
Yeah, it's and then if you say I'm wrong, I'll go straight on the defensive. You know what I mean? But that, like, I don't make apologies for that, because if I didn't think it was right, I shouldn't be saying it. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to air it up and flower it around. If I think I'm right, that's what's happening, you know. And other people have benefited out of that, because if I'm fighting on your side, I'll be quite strong about it.
Yeah.
But do I have vulnerabilities? Yeah, my stomach is turning talking to you.
Yeah.
So that to me is vulnerable, you know. It's not that I don't want to be talking about this.
Yeah.
I want to be.
You wouldn't electively say, right, let's have that chat today.
I don't want anybody knowing about my life. So why am I doing it then? You know, and that's, I'm sure people are looking at, well, what are you saying that for? And then sitting on a camera saying it. The reason I'm doing it is because it's been bloody hard to get here.
Yeah.
And other people can benefit from it.
Absolutely. You know? The knowledge that you have, you're giving it away.
Yeah.
So let's look at, say you think that you're right.
Yeah.
And then you find out that you're not. How do you switch from, oh man, how am I going to change the narrative here?
How do I stop being the victim?
Yeah, like when you realise that you've made a mistake, what does the process look like for you when you thought that you were right, now you know you weren't, what's your next move?
I don't think it's ever as simple as that with me, because it takes me so long.
Really?
Yeah, like even if I go back to my relationship with my ex-partner, you know, wonderful woman, I wouldn't have said that when she left.
Okay.
Because I would have felt hurt, and I would have felt, you know, what did I do wrong? And I knew what I'd done wrong years ago, but it's a long time since then.
Okay.
And everything was about me, you know, it wasn't about her. So when did I realise that she was in the right? You know, there was no particular moment where I realised. It was kind of a period of time going to counselling, you know, getting other things, and people not agreeing with me for the sake of agreeing with me was another one, you know.
Yeah.
And then when I start realising, do you know what, she was actually right for what she done, you know.
Yeah.
When I start realising that, it was tough.
That's a kick in the head.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, it's still tough to talk about it, you know, because now, and I'm still going to say it's a little bit selfish that I turn around and say, that was me that done that, and I'm thinking about me rather than the effect I had on her.
On other people, yeah.
And on my son, and on family members on both sides of the thing, you know. It's not good. It's not good. But what I did decide to do then was work on myself.
Do the internal work.
Do the internal work. That's the advice I was getting from people who are in the game a lot longer than me.
Yeah.
You know, and who have done the courses and they've studied, and not me going on to Google and trying to fix it, you know. So two things I decided to do. I decided to look at myself, and I decided to listen.
Brilliant.
You know, again, that's hard when you think you're right. It's hard to listen to people, you know. And I do a lot of work on communication now, because I've done mentoring courses since, and I've done dealing with change and all that. And communication is huge, you know. And what I've learned through them is that sometimes when people talk, the other person doesn't hear what's actually said. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Which was me.
Yes.
You know, and I'm doing that in the business. I'm doing the course in the business sense, but I'm relating it back to personal life.
Absolutely.
So
So what's the difference for you between listening and hearing?
Listening is trying to slow down my mind.
Okay.
And physically focus on the person that's speaking to me. You know, that's what I have to do, because otherwise, when you say something, I've already jumped three ahead.
You're formulating a response.
Yeah. So I'm listening with a view to giving a reply, which is not the right way to do. But also I'm missing what you're saying in between.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, so I've made an assumption based on nothing.
Yes. And
that's no use to anybody. So I have to stop, and I have to pause, and I have to slow it down.
So your ego was driving the bus there.
The ego.
Yeah.
My current partner now is big on the ego, and she reminds me, see, the ego is back, you know. And
okay, so she calls it out.
Oh, she calls it out big time.
I'll have to meet this lady.
And that can be frustrating as well, but
because she's right.
But I've yet to prove her wrong. So
there you go. I mean? There you go.
But in answer to your question, I have no particular point. You know what I mean? But it's hard for me. It was hard for me to admit I was wrong. I don't know when I started admitting I was wrong, though.
Okay.
You know, so it was a process.
So right now you're hearing to understand.
Yeah.
You're hearing to understand. Yeah. Because I do that work with my clients.
And I just emphasise that I try to hear to understand. I still slip back into
everybody does. This is the point, Casey. Like, when you're doing personal development, I don't want anybody to lull themselves into a false sense of security that if you go off and you do a load of personal development, Nicola, you're going to be grand. You're going to be better than you were, but you're always going to have challenges.
And that's the point I'm saying. It's, you know, it's trying. You got to keep trying. You got to keep trying. You got to keep coming back. Go back to the cup. Fill that cup up. You know, you take a bit out, fill it back up. You know, you've got to.
But the personal development will give you the tools that you need for the resilience, for the bounce back ability when you do have the knocks. Because the knocks are always going to come. We just get better at dealing with them. Yeah.
And your network of people.
Yes.
You know, and I know you're big on that side of things with the
community's
work you do.
The people that I keep close to me, very, very important to me.
There was one great bit of advice I was given is if you look at the 5 people close to you, that'll tell you the type of person you are.
Absolutely.
You know, and that rang home with me, you know, and I had a look at the people, and I'm blessed that even if I look back over the years, and it doesn't matter whether we were doing good things, bad things in society, because society changes, you know.
Yes.
The society of 30 years ago, where we used to drink all the time, has changed now to thing.
Yeah.
But my friends have been close. My close friends have been close, and they've been supportive when I needed it. Sometimes too much so.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But I get that. You don't want to knock your mates, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But they've been really supportive. And so I've not looked to add to that over the last few years.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I don't want to dilute the quality.
That's what I was going to say. It's quality over quantity.
And that's great. You know what I mean? No, I have a big... I could reach out to loads of people, but I keep my close friends close. You know what I mean? And that's...
I'm really happy for you that you have that. I'm delighted for you that you have that. You deserve that. Because I've seen you working with the kids and I've seen you speaking. You're a fantastic speaker, by the way. You really speak from your heart and your soul, and you have a lot of passion, and you pour yourself into everything that you're doing. I remember one day, I was working with you and the girls, and I was coming from a radio interview in Dublin in the south side, and there was a very bad crash on the motorway, and I was delayed, and I was sick because I don't do late. And I was sick. I was really late because the traffic just wasn't moving. But when I went in, you hadn't prepared having to speak to these girls because all their parents were there and all the whole team was there, and you gave this speech. And you were giving the speech when I walked into the room frantically trying to set up. And you kept going and you kept going. And I was listening to every word, and I was just saying to myself, my God, these young ones are so lucky to have such a fantastic role model, and a male role model at that, pouring every single piece of knowledge and experience that you have into an unprepared talk. Stepping in for me when I was late.
Yeah, but I'm actually going to marry that up, because I always do this, is marry them back. That's exactly the situation I'm talking about in real life. You know, where you're hit with something unprepared. But why am I prepared for it? Because I have been preparing for it.
Yes.
I have been.
Your whole life.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I've been consistent in in that particular incident. I've been consistent in my messages. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The information I've given them hasn't changed from previous information. I might have given it in smaller things.
Or different
language. So all I done was gathered the same information together, brought it back and gave it to the girls. So in real life, what am I looking for then in regards to personal development? Consistency.
Yeah.
The same information over and over, you know. And we do it in football, kick the ball, repetition. We learn by repetition, keep kicking the ball. Yeah, I know it's boring. Boring, but hey, this becomes second nature to you then.
Yes.
Why don't we do that with our personal development?
Well, listen, my clients do.
Yeah, no, I'm asking myself the question there.
I'm bigging up my clients.
Yeah.
I think the reason why people don't do repetition when it comes to personal development, I see it with people who don't work with me, right? I see people thinking, I'll do that one course and I'll be fixed. I'll go to that one day and I'll be fixed. I only have to learn this information one time and it'll be in forever. No. We are... This is our language that we use in our groups, Casey. We're persistent, consistent, and insistent with our development.
Love it.
It's the same thing over and over and over and over again. We had a live Q&A there last week, and one of the girls said, I heard you talking about this particular topic, Nicola, 18 months ago, and I only just got it right now. And I'm like, but that's grand.
There's nothing wrong with that.
You don't know. I've actually said that to you 30 times in the last 18 months. But it's only the penny just dropped today.
It's exactly what I was thinking.
The penny dropped today because you had the ears to hear it.
Every time you drop that penny in that penny machine, it takes a different route.
Yes.
Doesn't always get to the bottom at the same time.
Yes.
And that's why the saying is there.
Yeah.
You know.
So it's very important, I suppose, for the listeners to know that we have to be, to break the habits and to allow yourself to be uncomfortable. To get comfortable being uncomfortable is the only way, is the only path to your personal development.
Yeah.
Because it's not the same journey for everybody.
Yeah, I love that other saying, get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest part, but if you get comfortable being uncomfortable, well then it becomes comfortable, you know.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Because growth, that's the only way that growth happens. And we have this thing in SoulWorks called the spiritual staircase, where you have the lesson and you're like, yeah, I have that now. And then I give them the next lesson and they're like, yeah, that was grand, I have that now. And everything is like a staircase, but then they'll meet a step one day and the step will be so big. They say, I can't get over that, Nick. That's too big for me. And what I say to them is they have to stretch themselves internally. They have to grow internally to meet that step so that they can get over it. Even if they have to get over it by the skin of their teeth and their nails.
Do you know that there's another tool that might help your people?
Yeah.
Is reframe it.
Yes.
Reframe it, you know what I mean? I can't get up there. Well, let's reframe the question. Let's reframe the task. You know what I mean? What do I need to get up in one go?
Yes.
You know, what can I do here?
Yes.
You know,
what can you do now?
Yeah, what can I do now? I might not be able to get up there today, but what can I do today that will help me get up there in the next time I try?
Yes.
You know, and there's another thing I hate about society today is that everything has to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. You know, we can fail. Failure is glorious.
I love a bit of failure.
Failure is glorious.
Yes.
Because if we fail, we're on our way to success.
It's the only way you learn.
You've got to fail. You know, I've yet to meet a person that reached top level that hasn't failed along the way. And yet, in society, it's got to be right. It's got to be perfect.
Yeah.
It's got to be this. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's got to be yours.
Yes.
That's all it needs to be is yours.
Yeah. I was speaking to somebody last week and I didn't realise that they were so crippled by fear because they were afraid of failing. And they were afraid to try new things because of this fear of failing, fear of judgment and striving for perfection. But as I've been saying forever, is I'm a recovering perfectionist and will always be in recovery from perfectionism. But I was masking other things at the time because that's all perfectionism is, it's just masking. But striving for perfection will kill you.
Can you be a perfectionist and fail?
Oh my God, that question's after hurting my brain. Can you be a perfectionist and fail? Well, no is the answer because there's no such thing as perfection. There's people who strive for perfection, but there is no such thing as perfection. There isn't.
So if we reframe it,
yeah.
Why can't you?
Why can't you what? I'm so confused now.
Why can't you fail as a perfectionist? If you change what perfection is in your mindset, well then I can fail along the way to perfection.
You can fail along the way to try and refine whatever it is you're doing to the highest standards, but you're never going to reach perfection.
Because you will class perfection as from the very first step to the end.
Yeah.
Whereas I wouldn't.
Yeah.
To me, perfection, I have a different interpretation of it.
Right.
Perfection is my end result.
Okay.
Not the journey to get there.
Okay.
Now, is there a such thing as perfection? I don't think so because change is ever present in everything we do. And if I get it perfect today, well, we've already moved on. Something else is a little bit more
This is what
perfect.
I say to my clients. You tell me a perfect human. Name them. Name that person. And they can't.
The only perfect humans I know are the ones that are unfortunately under the ground and that we've made up a load of lies about. And we can't prove them wrong. People like, let's go back to the times of Christ and all that, you know what I mean? It's we can't prove things wrong. But
no, we can't.
I'm joking when I say it, of course. But
the failure part is very, very important. Allowing yourself the privilege of failing.
The joy of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't come in the failure. What I find is the joy from failure comes in your next stage when you get it right because of the failure.
Yes.
And that then you're able to appreciate the place you were.
Yes.
And that wasn't such a bad place, you know. Yeah. And we do. Listen, I deal with it, whether I relate it to sport or work or thing, you know, it's easy in a football match. We failed because we lost the match. Sometimes we actually haven't failed, but we've lost the match. But then we learn from that and we go out in another game, we play a team that's even better than the last one. And we win that game because we learned from that one.
Exactly. Stepping stones all along the way.
Now that's the joy of failure is actually worth it.
Yes.
Because, again, I'm going to go back to my way of interpreting things, because my perfection comes at the end. When I win the league at the end of a year, that's the perfection.
Yeah.
But along that way, I've lost games.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, stepping stones is another one.
It's lovely.
Or the stairs.
That's lovely. Right. Defence Forces. Progressed to Battalion Quartermaster Sgt, highest ranking non-commissioned logistics officer. Served overseas in Lebanon twice, travelled extensively in Europe, Africa and Middle East. How do you even end up with that title? Like, what even is that?
I made that sound a lot longer than it is. It's basically, you're the chief logs.
Okay.
Logistician. You know what I mean? So you're in charge for all the supplies. Most people know a battalion sergeant major. You know, so that would be my equivalent on a human resources side in a normal business. So I look after everything that's not alive. And the battalion, or the
everything
sergeant,
that's not alive.
The sergeant major looks after everything that is alive.
Okay.
You know, so humans.
Yeah.
Everything that supports the humans.
Yeah.
So in a way, I like to think that goes with me nature is I'm the support element.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they wouldn't be able to do their job unless you were in place.
So, and that ties in with what I try to do, you know, through sport or through thing is support people, you know what I mean, and give them what they need when they need it.
You actually commented on it when we were setting up for the podcast about the support that we have about going off and getting the batteries from other people.
Yeah.
Your mind was thinking from a logistical space.
Yeah. And it's just the great thing about support, again, not really tying in with the army, but overlapping on stuff is, to me, one of the big jobs I have is to give people what they want when they want it. No, what they want when they need it.
When they need it.
As opposed to when they want it.
Yes.
You know, and it's very important to make that distinction, you know.
Yeah.
So,
and do you know what else is very important about that one statement? Is that is very relevant to personal development as well.
Yeah, I think so. You know, and it's sometimes we want to get to the end. It's the quick fix society. We want to get to the end very quickly. Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
I love when you were talking about do one course. I go to the other stage when we do one course. We forget that most courses are just giving us the tools to go out and learn. You
have to pick up the tools.
Yeah. But you've got to learn after your course. Your course isn't the job done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Going out and learning more from it. So it's similar.
But it's also applying. Like I say to my clients, people say to me, "Oh my God, this works after changing my life. Thank you so much, Nicola." And I'm like, now hold up. Hold on for 1 second. You approached me, first of all, and asked me for help. I lay down a set of tools. That's all I did. That's where my job ends. What you did is you chose to pick up the tools, learn from the tools, use the tools, apply the tools into your life, and through all of them steps, there's a massive amount of discomfort. There's a massive amount of trying new things and having to become persistent, consistent, and insistent with your habits. So it's actually nothing to do with me. Now,
I wouldn't say nothing, but I 100% agree with you. But the first step sometimes is the important one.
Yeah, but the first step is that they came to me,
to you,
to ask. Now, come here. When they're using the tools and all that, they've a lovely, supportive, and sense of belonging in the community that we've created, and it's phenomenal. Like I do it no justice when I try and describe the way that they all operate with each other within that group. It's like I'm better off asking them to describe it, because when I'm saying it, it sounds like I'm making it up, and it's like a slice of heaven. It really is. But when you have a group of people that all have a common goal of wanting to do difficult work internally, knowing that there's not going to be any judgment, knowing they're always going to have a sense of belonging, knowing that if they fall or they falter or they fail, that somebody is going to be there to throw the hand out or throw the rope back and say, "I have you, come on, we'll do it together." And somebody else in the group had that situation 2 years ago. Let's put you in touch with them, and we're connecting and networking all the people that need certain people at a certain time. It's a beautiful, beautiful environment. Don't know how I got onto that story, but okay. Served in Lebanon, extensively in Europe, Africa and Middle East. Talk to me about that.
Lebanon, earlier in the career, I would have went to Lebanon twice when I was a young lad. Really eye-opening experiences. And not necessarily for the military side of things. One of the biggest things I noticed when I was over there, we were on an observation post, an OP we call it, you know. So this one, in order to get, for air troops to get down to us every morning, they had to do a mine sweep. They had to check the road for mines. They couldn't come down to us because they'd lay mines overnight.
Okay.
So that's grand. But, you know, these mines are pressure, you know, so it'd be the pressure of a truck or a tank going over them. So a person walking mightn't necessarily set them off, unless it was an anti-personnel one. But the funny thing about it is, in this situation we're looking at, it's a dirt track as opposed to a road coming down. But every morning there used to be this old lad on a donkey come down the road. You know, now we're coming after it with armoured cars and minesweepers and cable detectors and all that after. He'd come down 2 hours before that, and he'd have the 2 girls walking behind him. He's on donkey, and they'd be walking behind him. And he'd come out and he'd tie the donkey up under the tree. Yeah. He would sit in the shade, and he'd have them 2 girls working in the heat all day.
Great.
And that just stood out to me, that there's something wrong with this picture, you know.
Yeah.
And then the other side is, we've got to respect, we're in a different country, we've got to respect their ways, we've got to change. But it just stood out with me that there's something wrong, you know. It's.
Yeah. Did you ever rise up in any of those situations, Casey, and make your opinion known?
No, 100% no.
Okay.
And nor would I, because that's what I signed up for at the time.
Right.
While it might have affected the way I think when I come home, and noticed things at home that I wouldn't have noticed before. Right. At the time, we're out there, we can't upset the balance of things. Yeah. We're peacekeeping, you know what I mean? We're not going out there peace enforcing, we're not going out enforcing their will on other people. Other people might call that bullying in a different way, you know. Yeah. But, and again, who am I to make up the rules of the world that if it's wrong for me, it might not be wrong for you. But this felt wrong.
On a granular level, it felt wrong.
But if I go out wearing a blue beret of the United Nations and say, get out under the shade and put the girls in, you know, it's an international incident, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, that's not what we're there for. But it did help shape me towards, and sometimes the wording wouldn't be great of it, but I like helping people out that need help. Yeah. And you fast forward this on to, how did you end up helping the girls out in football when you were managing on the men's side and doing quite well in it? Yeah. Because I felt there was a bigger need there.
Oh, well done.
You know, so
I love the fact that you did that.
And that to me,
I'm not surprised actually.
That to me can relate back to that picture I was getting in the field every morning.
Wow.
You know, and them 2 girls, and they're only kids, you know what I mean? They're only 13, 14, I'd say, and they're working the field all day. Yeah. And they come up to the gate for water. Yeah. You know, technically weren't meant to shoot them away, you know, but of course they'd go away, and it was great for them because they come up and lo and behold they go away with chocolate and Coke and everything else as opposed to water, you know. So they kind of half knew what they were doing, in fairness. Yeah. But that was their way of helping out, you know. Yeah. And then again, I was over in India with the army as well, and I kind of half got into trouble because I organised a container to bring out a load of Easons. Easons gave me a load of colouring books and pencils and all, and we were going out and playing in world military games. And we kind of half snuck this on, and the military end up paying for the container to come out, you know, and the military are great at helping out in humanitarian situations like that. So, but we brought it to an orphanage. But when I done that, I'd organised it with the lads after football as a goodwill thing, because you like to do good things and it makes you feel better. And so in a selfish way, we're doing it. But we didn't realise the impact it would have on us out there.
Really?
These kids didn't know what a can of Coke was.
I know. Listen, I've worked in Brazil, I've worked in Kenya, I get it.
And we're going out and we're bringing the crayons and things, and I tell you what I got. I organised that, great. The lads all 100% bought into it, but what really got me that day was a lot of them were girls, you know. But the lads' interaction with them when it was brought to their attention, you'd seen hard lads on football pitches, you know what I mean, or hard military lads that don't give an inch and thing, and they melted. Right. They melted with these kids. Wow. You know what I mean? And it's gone away. And to me, if brought any of them in, it'd have a profound effect on them. They would say that day would have a profound effect that people need help. And sometimes we forget, you know, because we look at it and tell you it's not us. Yeah. But in that moment, they connected. Oh, big time. They connected. Big time. This is what I'm always saying, is when we allow ourselves the opportunity to connect with another human on that level and see that the impact that you're having
on another person, even with a small thing to us, like colouring books from Eason's. That could spark something in a child where they didn't know they were an artist.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
You know?
it's or even
And you see
give
the
them-
joy, the joy that you feel, and it's palpable joy.
The sad thing is, again, I don't want to bring it down because I know you're being positive on it, but the
But
sad
this is
thing,
positive.
The
This is
sad thing
positive.
for me that day was the connections that were made had to be broken.
I know. That was my hardest bit as well, Casey.
And with us, it's okay because we're going back to what we know and what we're used to, and we're okay for stuff. When you look at that situation, we're quite okay.
We're fine. We're absolutely fine.
But they were going back
Yeah.
to nothing, and it didn't affect them. And I'll always say, sometimes we look at people, children especially, in areas where water is scarce, food is scarce, and they're the happiest kids in the world. You know what I mean? Them kids were happy in that moment, but their future is uncertain, and that's not right, and I don't think we realise it at times. So let's go back to connections and how the connections we make with our friends, with our things, you got to keep them going.
Yeah, absolutely. Off camera, I'll tell you about what happened when we had to disconnect from the kids in Brazil, because that was a very violent story. So I don't want to tell that on camera. But when I was leaving the kids in Kenya, I became really good friends with one of the children in particular. He was the same age as my son Jamie, so I could really identify with him. But we took those kids they were living in a dump, and they were pulling food out of, like, these were children who were sold by their parents.
Yeah.
And we were with them for a couple of weeks, and I literally had to be peeled away from them boys. I had to be peeled. It's mad the way you went and you worked with the girls, and I went and I worked with the boys.
Yeah.
Isn't that class?
Yeah.
But yeah, I had to be physically, forcibly removed because I didn't want to. I wanted to bring them all home with me, and I couldn't.
It was only a couple of hours we spent. I think we were meant to spend 2 hours, about 4 hours when we did actually spend there, because we would have been on strict.
You were duty.
Yeah, but we had a coach, and I'm telling you, that was the quietest coach ever
On the way back.
of a football team.
Yeah.
You think about it, 20 odd lads away, international duty, all the coaching staff. So there's 35 of us on the coach. Near the word said in that coach on the way home. There's little conversations between me and you sitting in the seat. You know what I mean?
Reflecting.
But it was quite. I can only tell you, like, normally a men's football coach team is, the noise levels are
Porsche.
up there unless they're all asleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No,
I'm going to tell you a story about connection and the levels of connection. I hadn't planned on telling you, but I'm going to tell you, right? So my grandfather, George Tyndall, Sergeant George Tyndall, was in the first deployment to the Congo, and he was over and back many times. And he happened to be in a movie called The Blue Max.
Right.
He's in the opening scene of The Blue Max with George Papart. And my grandfather was very good to the people that served under him in the army and alongside him and above him. He was just a good guy, a great guy. And my grandfather passed away when I was 13 and it devastated me. But donkey's years after, my kids were only small at the time, a letter came to me nanny's house, and she was passed as well. A letter came to me nanny's house to say that we were invited, 2 people from the family were invited to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the first deployment to the Congo, right? So there's killings in our family over who's getting the tickets. And I said, I'm telling you now, lads, I'm going. I couldn't care about yous or his daughters. I'm going. This is what's happening. We're all going. So anyway, I ring the Department of Defence.
Yeah.
And I said,
wouldn't be like you.
Yeah, so I just rang them and I was, look, this is the story. And as soon as I said, my grandfather is Sergeant George Tyndall, I just started to bawl. I was bawling on the phone and I couldn't get the story out to the girl. And I was explaining how important he is to us and our family. And she said to me, how many tickets do you want, love? And I said, I need 14. And she goes, it wasn't like 3 or 4. I said, I need 14 because there literally will be killings in our family if everybody doesn't get to go. So I got the 14 tickets, right?
Fair play.
And we all went, my kids and all, they were only tiny. And there was a row of elderly army men directly in front of us, right? And all my family in the row behind. And my ma was alive at the time, and she's saying to me, ask them what battalion they were in or whatever, right? I can't remember the exact terminology. So I said, I will. And I said, and I'm going to try not cry, tell you this.
Yeah.
I said, I tipped the man on the shoulder that was sitting in front of me, and I said, how you doing? I'm just checking to see, did you happen to know Sergeant George Tyndall when you were in the Congo? And he turned in the seat and he said, "And who am I speaking with?" And I said, "You're speaking to his granddaughter." And he turned back around in the chair. It was like he was ignoring me, but he wasn't. And he started talking up and down the row and passing along the information. And they all stood up and saluted us. And they sat down and they told us stories about me granda. Because they all served under him. And they all told us stories about the things that he did. It was one of the best days of my life, really, since he passed, to hear all of those things. And then we told them that we didn't have any of his medals. We couldn't find his medals. And we didn't have any memorabilia or anything. So what they did is that they put a day on specifically just for our family. And they got replicas of all of his medals. And they presented them to all his children and to his grandchildren. And they had food and we had music. And it was like, obviously I know the importance of the army and the honour and the connection and the belonging. But it was only that day that I truly got it. Because we're nothing to them. But in fact, we're everything to them.
You are everything.
Yeah. So that really affected me.
And I love that connection. I really do. And I can visualise what happened there, because that's what lads would do. You know what I mean? Who have served with somebody else and who respect somebody else, and that is the connection. Where I'd like to bring it to is away from the military is we all have them connections.
Yeah.
And there's another saying that you know I can never work it out is, why do we always wait until somebody's dead to talk good about them?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We have these connections.
Yeah.
But yet we just don't tell each other how much we respect each other, how much we value something somebody's done. You know, we might say thanks, but it's off the cuff. Sometimes we've got to sit down and say, do you know what, you've got to listen to me today. This is what I really like about you.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, it's hard for me doing that, because we're brought up in a country where we don't give each other press.
Yeah.
But let's break that trend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Now, come here, I've no problem with it.
I know that.
And the people I work with have no problem with it.
But as a whole...
Yeah, in general.
As a whole...
Yeah.
That's not our way of operating.
Yeah.
But we need to.
For example, before you came here, I was telling Ronan Whitty, our CEO of the mill, who you were. It's like, my pal Casey's coming up and, you know, he's in the army. This is going to be a brilliant podcast and I really admire him for all these different reasons. And I said to Ronan, I love him. And Ronan looked at me, he was like, what? And I said, no, I do love him. I said, I told him. I tell him all the time. And Ronan's looking at me like I have 40 heads. Like, but then when I saw you coming across the car park and you were in partially dressing I was like, oh my God. But Ronan was in stitches laughing at my reaction to watching you coming across the car park. But it's very important to try and encourage that behaviour in other people. Vulnerability feels icky. Vulnerability feels like it's massively discomfort or uncomfortable, because you don't know what the response is going to be. But I think if you take away your need for a response, it makes it easier. Yeah,
it's you have me thinking now about connections and everything else, and I'm kind of going off. You know, I was struggling when I split up with the miss, and I mentioned that before, and that's grand. And I went through a really bad time, and I was suicidal, and I ended up in Beaumont in the psychiatric ward for a couple of weeks, and that was great. But on the topic,
well, it wasn't great, Casey. That's not great now.
It wasn't great, but as part of the journey,
what came out of it was probably great.
Yeah, it wasn't great. It was a horrible time, to be honest. You know, and it's, if we talk about fear, it's one of my biggest fears is gone. Why do I work on myself? Because I never want to go back to that area.
Yes.
You know, and it's a really horrible place to be. It was a horrible place to be. The actual sad thing about it is, I remember I was brought into the psych ward, and it was the first time I felt safe in months.
Really?
You know, so yeah, it was a horrible thing, and I tried to dismiss it by saying grand, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But I'm never letting you away with that.
But it was part of the journey I was on. But more the point I wanted to get on to was connections, keeping it on topic, was during this time, myself and my son became very close, and we started doing things that we wouldn't normally do.
Okay.
We would hug each other. You know, and he's in his 20s, and he wasn't used to that either, coming from me, you know. So me as the teacher didn't teach him the right way. You know what I mean? For whatever reasons. But he was concerned, and he's looking at his dad, and his dad's struggling, and we built a connection there that we hadn't got before. We had a connection, but
not at this level.
Not at this level.
Right.
Now, the one thing I would say is, and I have to work on this, is we let it drop then.
Right.
Not to an extent, we great time. You know what I mean? We really do.
Yeah.
We bond. We're nearly like brothers at times, you know, which is not always
not
great
always
in the father-son relationship. But it's great. But that part is dropped because it's not the social norm.
Okay.
You know, so maybe I need to look at trying to bring that back in as a result of this conversation.
I'll be holding you accountable to that now going forward.
But I think it's important to say that as well. And that's me trying to deal with my vulnerability as well and putting it out in the open and saying, do you know what, it doesn't matter. Because I know sometimes people say, oh, you're so confident, or you're so this. You know. I doubt myself all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You doubt every action. You're worried about what that person over there thinks, that person over there thinks.
Yeah.
You know, so
well, fair play to you now for addressing that, because I think the guys who listen to this podcast will really be able to resonate with that.
Hopefully.
And we'll open up a conversation around that for sure.
But I think it ties back into keep working on yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That you might think you're better, but little things are slipping off, and sometimes something will make you trigger and say, oh, maybe there's an area I need to refine, to revisit and
writing it down, Casey. Writing it down. I'm going to be buying a gift for you. I'll be going into Eason's. We give them a plug.
Lana's already got me 2 diaries to write in.
Brilliant. I was going to ask you, what age were you when you joined the army?
Was I 19, 18?
And what brought you to wanting to join the army?
The movies.
The movie, really?
No, I had an uncle in the army. The uniform is a big attractor, you know what I mean? It's I don't know, it's that sense of you're brought up in a place where turmoil was part of your everyday life, you know.
Chaos.
It's chaos. It's, to me, it was the natural progression. You're part of, it's a bigger gang.
Right.
You know, in that simplistic way, I'm part of a bigger gang now, you know. It's in hindsight, it was something totally different.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
But at the time, I just used to look at war movies and people to be shooting each other and killing each other, and I also believed in the flag and the country and the people defending the community and looking after your own and all them things that were all muddled up, you know.
Yeah.
But there was something in them, you know what I mean? There was, I think, when I look back in hindsight, what did I really want? I wanted to serve.
You wanted to serve your country?
I just wanted to serve.
Brilliant. Whether
it's country or somebody else. I've always been trying to please people.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
People pleaser.
Yeah.
We have to come back for another podcast, Casey. I'm telling you. When you were away and serving, were you ever truly scared?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes, I was. One particular incident I was. There's 2 instances that, one I should have been scared, but I wasn't scared because our training brought us and I didn't realise. But when I look back on it, I was saying, I should have been scared there.
Yeah.
They were bombing the hell out of us.
Okay.
Like, you know, the Israelis were lobbing bombs in to beat the band.
Okay.
It's just after Grapes of Wrath, you know, which was when the Israelis went into Lebanon.
Yeah.
And we were in bunkers.
Right.
Most of the time. And I actually remember Bridget, who's my ex-partner, she'd rang through one night. She tells the story better than I do, but I'm on a post, you know, and everybody else is in the bunker, but we have to leave somebody up to observe what's happening. And in these days, there was no internet or anything like that, but a call would come in from Dublin to Lebanon up to our camp. They would relay it by lines out to us, and then we were on a post where we transferred it to others. But I'm on a post and there's a call coming in from, we're not meant to be getting any calls, you know, we're in. So a call comes in, can I speak to Casey? What are you doing on the line? I said, what's that noise around you? I said, you're going to have to get off the line, like, you know what I mean? But that she said, she was ringing because they heard we were under pressure on the news, because the only way you got your stuff then was back on RTE News.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And she had ring, and for some reason we'd messed up and let the calls get through. But she says, all I can hear is explosions, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then of course I send a letter to explain it. So that's 4 days, 5 days, 6 days. Oh God,
can you imagine?
You know, so yeah. So there was all that thing. So yeah, it wasn't really scared because we were dealing with it and we were thinking, and if anything, stupidly, we were looking at it like fireworks, you know, at times, you know, there's another one gone off over there, you know.
But you habituate in those situations, you have to, for your survival.
Yeah. The other time was on a checkpoint where I was only 19 at the time, and just, they had drove through, and you're on the end. With a checkpoint, you have this one in particular, you had 3 entry points, and then you have a centre point where we checked the car, and I was on the outside one. They stopped the car and they had weapons in it, so you're not allowed to carry the weapons through. They send it back, and then they got out and started doing a bit of a hullabaloo and pointing weapons up, and then all our lads came out, and we have you know, very laid down SOPs to follow when these things happen. But the problem was, I was down beside these, and all our lads are up there. And
you were right there, facing it.
And I'm 19 years of age, and you know, it just wasn't there.
Right.
But that one, yeah.
Would you handle it?
I didn't handle it. We handled it.
Okay.
You
Brilliant.
know,
I love that.
I was just kind of caught up in it. You know what I mean? And that's probably the fear factor. Whereas if I down the other end, I wouldn't have worried.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But it was more the unknown then.
Yeah.
So kind of got a little bit worried at that one. But
Right.
but we dealt with it. And in hindsight, when I look back as an older man with more experience, we were new out there. They were just testing the waters.
Yeah, they were trying to find their boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's all some of it's a little game with them, you know what I mean? And that's grand, but I didn't know that at the time, you know.
Absolutely. This is life or death situation here.
Yeah, it just...
So we'll wrap up now, but I want to give you the last word. If this was your last lecture, what piece of advice do you want to leave on planet Earth?
Oh, you're not catching me now, aren't you? I hate saying it, because again, I hate this selfish thing, but look after yourself. You really got to look after yourself. I won't go as far as saying love yourself, because that comes after the fact. If you do the work, that comes naturally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I want to, can I just reframe? Can I help you reframe? Your language there. Looking after yourself is not selfish. It's self-full.
Yeah.
Because when you look after yourself, if you prioritise you as number one, it then gives you an opportunity to take care of other people better.
Yeah.
It's actually... it's a mind-blowing situation where people think, oh no, I have to be looking after other people in order for me to be okay, the whole people pleaser gig. But if you reverse engineer it and you look after you first, you're good, you're solid, you're secure, and then you can go and do all the other stuff as well.
Yeah.
So your message is, you look after you prioritise you. It's what you have written in your introduction. Prioritise you, and everything else will follow suit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go with that.
Casey, thanks a million.
No, thank you
for your time. I really, really enjoyed that podcast, and I think it's going to be really beneficial to a lot of people.
Hopefully.
And I know hopefully about it. It absolutely will. And I'm going to put all of Casey's connections, if you want to connect with Casey, embedded into this podcast. And I'll also put the links to the live stream that I did about Casey the night of the Coronas gig. All right.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. Thanks for not making me squirm too much.
My pleasure.